behalf of Agile 20 Reflect, and this event is organized and powered by Agility TuneUp. So let me introduce myself as the moderator today. My name is Rohan Mahalekam, an Agile practitioner, program manager, uh, coming from Agile background with 15 plus years experience in the IT industry. Uh, so, the meeting structure today. Uh, so we have 1.5 hours for the entire discussion. Uh, so the questions perspective. So we welcome all your questions related to topic. Uh, so you can post all your questions in chat box, and if the question is so much more appropriate to the topic that we are discussing, I will try to take that up during the session. So it's based on how time permits. We will try to focus on the discussion topic today because we have a special guest speaker today. So during the time, so I'll try my best to figure your questions as well based on how time permits. Related to the topic today, just to start off, most of the organizations today, uh, especially software companies, uh, so they are trying to run on agile based models. It could be hybrid or it could be full agile model. So while pursuing agile transformations, uh, agile leaders, especially the board members of the particular company, do have a very specific role. So they are the important stakeholders of this transformation journey, especially their capabilities and how they inspect and adapt, and how they adapt to the transformation journey, and how they cascade the right message to their subordinates is key. So I would say if this is a treasure, the agile board leaders, the board members, will have the key to unlock. So we gone that way today to have a discussion related to the responsibility of the board members towards agile transformation. So I would like to welcome our guest speaker today, uh, Anura De Alwis. Anura De Alwis is a well-rounded corporate leader with a 30 years proven track record. He is very passionate about digitally transforming business, maximizing ROI, and delivering true shareholder values. He has basically grown global organizations varying size, starting startups and to large enterprises, working closely with investors and the lead management teams. Uh, Up to now, he has successfully set up 3 technology startups, and Anura also possesses experience in many areas like strategy, advisory, business transformation, especially governance function, not only in Sri Lanka but also in APAC, Europe, and North America as well. So he has served many multinational corporations, including Pearson, ENY, Telstra, Hewlett Packard, Nokia, Tabcorp, BT, British Telecom, and Singapore Power and Virtusa as well. He basically, as a visionary leader, he foresees the challenges always on the journey towards the digital economy. So that's why we have him today as the guest speaker. So, Anura, it's all yours to give a quick introduction from your perspective about the topic that we are going to discuss today.
Thank you so much, Rohan, for your kind introduction, and welcome all of you on this webinar today with Agile 20. And then I hope you all have a great Sunday, and looking forward to your vaccinations. And I think the topic is very relevant to speak, because this topic, I don't think, Rohan, this topic I've never seen, not very much, at least, spoken in any of the Agile forums. I think that is what we picked up this topic, because it is really, really necessary how this is understood. I'll give you a simple reason why this topic has not been spoken and why is it important. The firstly, why it is not spoken widely is, can you hear me, Rohan?
Yes,
So yeah, okay. Widely, why it is not spoken, I think I have an analogy for that. The reason I believe is that Agile has been seen many years as a software development methodology. It's a replacement for the waterfall. That's what, but I go back to my early career, and I see what are the things that we do today are repetition. I see that, like, there was a time. I'll give you a simple example. It's a repetition of what happened in the past. For example, if you go to the fashion, there was a time that people were wearing there's something called bell buttons, like, bottom is bell curved. Now you can see that's the same fashion coming back in a different way. So there was a time hippie type of things. Now the same dress codes are being wear. So you can see the cycles, and next generation might reject it and another generation picks up. So I see these agile, not the agile methodologies per se, but the principle has been practiced when we started on short deliverables, iterations, etc. But they are all spoken within the development engineering community. And that is why it is not widely spoken and understood sometimes by the corporate leaders. Now, that is the beginning. But why it is important for the same reason. If it is not widely spoken, we need to bring the attention. We need to pay the right level of attention and bring this in the corporate level. There are two reasons why we need to pay the attention by the corporate leaders, board level, senior leaders. Two reasons. Number one, they should really understand how the organization transforms and develop and deliver. I call it digitally transforming and understanding digital products. Number two, what is not known to many of the corporate leaders is there are many things in Agile that they could use in the boardroom. They could use in the corporate leadership, which I have used, I have practiced. And when people ask, so what is this? Then I smile and say, this is Agile methodology. Wow. So we could use that. Of course, we could use it. So that is the other reason. There are things you could take from Agile practices. You may not 100% compliant with the principles or the foundations, but you could use it. So there are good things in Prince too. You could use it. So similarly, I think there are Agile practices that the board themselves could use. Its senior management them could use. So I think these are the two main reasons I see this is a great topic. A, people have widely used in the development digital community, which is not transformed or gone up information so much to the board. They understand there is something called Agile, but they don't know why. Second thing is it's time for them also to realize there are practices and methods and things that they could use within the boardroom to get the best out of their output and make use of their time. I think that's with that I stop. I hope that gives a good starting point for our conversation.
That's the right pitch, Anura. Thank you very much. So, so going into the topics that we have today to start off our discussion. So I would like to start with uh, the board leaders' capability perspective. So if you invite uh, board leaders to apply their learning in practice, both in maybe agile transformations underway, or if you are planning a new agile transformation in your company or the organization. So board leaders, so take the they can take their capabilities through launching new organizational experiments, because most of the senior leadership team. So they will take the cue from the executive team, from the board. So board should show their capabilities early on to see how they plan this. So what is your thought about this, Anura? So would you like to give us some inspiring startup for this topic?
Right. Thanks, Rohan. So I think I will first establish a point very clearly, not just agile, Rohan, anything. Any transformation, the key is that it has to come top down, full stop. No transformation in my life has been successful going upward. I have tried it many times. Don't want to mention an organization, be it agile, be it process, be it restructuring, even the restructuring of organization redesign. If you start with the lower level, people do not get that, and there's a lot of and there are a lot of obstacles in front of you. And not only that, the escalation to the top level can easily get rejected people because we were not aware of that sort of excuse. So I think the first thing I want to establish, any transformation, whether it's agile, whether it's any other digital topic, or whether it's other organizational behavior topic, or any even HR topic, the transformation should come from top to bottom. It doesn't mean that top level people are doing it. What I'm trying to say, they should set the tone. If they do not set the tone and the pitch and the all the frameworks high level understood and endorsed, it will be a nightmare for the people below. With that thought in mind, let's jump into in a different aspect of your question. Now, how I think your question relates to how does the leadership should drive this and recognize this. Now, there is a reason I must bring why sometimes the corporate leaders are scared of agile. The reason is that I think I must tell upfront and be frank and black and white. Some of the agile leaders in the industry, in the digital industry, have spoken that agile does not need any documentation. Agile doesn't need any. So this is a myth, MYTH myth. And in our language, for those Sri Lankan, I think it goes very well with the Mithyava, right? Myth. The myth is that created that mindset among the leaders to fail, so that the leaders do not understand it, grasp it, and digest it. So they believe, okay, wow, so they are going to start a project. There's no end to it. There's no start to it. Anything can happen anytime. We don't know what we are signing off, that mindset. I think that is the agile leader, for example. When I say agile leader, I call a corporate leader. I believe the agile leader is a corporate level leader or a board level member. The agile envoy, evangelist, he has to start educating the top level. The agile is not having nothing, but agile is not having everything either. Because you have to understand it has certain principles, foundations, methods, way of working that needs to be understood and appreciated by the top management. So the agile leader, envoy, evangelist role in a corporate, whoever we choose by the board, is to make sure board and the senior executive team understand that. Now, this is varying from two different types of organization as well. If you really look at a startup to a scale up to a I would call it enterprise, well-established enterprise who has gone beyond the boundaries of startups. Let's block them into two for easy of understanding: startups versus others, which means startups and the scale-ups and enterprises. So the mindset that the corporate leaders in these two types are different. Let me bring the example, then you understand. Startup founders, leaders are mostly in the board. They have more say on to what they do day-to-day basis. So they understand it well. But when you transform to the other side, which is the scale-up enterprise side, your board tend to change. Funding, investments, different reasons. Or maybe sometimes board realize our board or our leaders has to be now changed. And many companies change the CEO at that point saying, look, I think founder CEO now take a different seat. We'll bring a new CEO from the market. So when you transform, where I think the failure does not happen. So go back to the original point. Any transformation, whatever it is, has to happen from top down. And my view is this transition between startup to a other side of the world, enterprise or scale up, you need to have that evangelist in the corporate ladder who will be driving at the top level, making sure new members of the board, new members of senior leadership understand that. That's the reason that why they do not understand, I think, is the myth that we talked about. Plus, most of the corporate leaders and senior executives are with a lot of finance background. They would love to lock down some of the example. Let's go down to all of a sudden to 5,000 feet onto agile. You have agile, like, you have daily scrums, then you have product grooming, you have daily, I mean, if you really want the iteration grooming, or those type of sprint grooming, etc. Now, that is the time the requirements being elaborated. But when you look at the top leader, he believes that anything is an agreement signed, and we deliver. What is in the agreement, we deliver. So he's wondering, why do we again, go iterations of trying to understand what the requirement, because we have already promised. So that is why the breakdown, because they are coming with finance background, they are coming with corporate strategy background. That is where that eventually the leader or the champion who's to need to make sure they understand it. So simple practice is that you have agreement, you have to deliver. That's how the corporate leadership look at. But when it's broken down, I think you need to establish baseline business agreement, baseline requirement, or baseline business model that we are trying to deliver. And then we go within that baseline, elaborated and iterative. So I think if that thing is understood and communicated to the corporate level, I think they understand this language, because they now understand, look, I think these agreements and all of them exist. They are not changed. But this is a methodology within that entire agreement. I'm saying agreement, Rohan, I'm referring to the customer. I'm talking about bilateral agreements, because that's where any organization, you can't run without any software delivery, to whether it's a client or your own product. You'll have to have sign off of what you're trying to deliver for the funding. So that has to be there. But finally, one last point. I think, Rohan, we need to be carefully understood, and this has been widely spoken in one of the large enterprises globally, which is over 30,000 employees. I have been addressing this. You need to also make sure these Scrum Masters and the Agile community leaders within the organization also understand financial practices, how to track them, how to report them, so they get the confidence. So it's not a one-way process coming down to top and making sure, yeah, we know, we all understand, now you run, but also bottom up, so that that confidence is maintained. I think I stop there, because otherwise it'll be too long. I hope that set the foundation why and how something at high level should be understood by the corporate leaders.
Exactly. Excellent. Anura, I like the way you pitch that into three categories: startups, scale-ups, and enterprise. Because the audience we have, obviously, we have audience from the all three categories. So, so you ensure that we address all three categories in this discussion. Thank you very much. So, going into the next subtopic, Anura, so I would like to talk about changing the mindset, especially when I was implementing softwares in APAC region. The major challenge that even I have faced is changing the mindset. So when I worked with a company who had most of the employees, they had spent 30 years in that company. So changing the mindset is really, really difficult. So today, as an example, the person who is working with some documents and ledgers and large books, writing something on it, tomorrow he has to sit in front of a computer and do enter those things in an UI user interface. So that mindset change has to be done properly from leadership perspective. You need to have very conscious mentoring until the desired maturity is achieved. So uh, in agile transformation also, this mindset change to break all habits is key. So the board members perspective, so, so what could be done to change the mindset from top to bottom in an organization? So, what is the responsibility of the board members towards this, Aruna. So we need to have your inspiring thoughts on this front as well.
Thanks, Rohan. Let me let me share some secret recipe here that you have not probably thought of, even though you know it. Most of us know it, but common sense. And there's a joke called common sense is not always common. So let me bring some common sense. Now let's take the topic to a different perspective, right? So we'll park the agile for the time being and bring a real world example of the corporate planning. So that will understood why my point when I bring the real the transformation and making sure they understand, and that part when we come to that, that you'll understand. So if I establish this first, now if you really look at the agile or the incremental methodologies is not new to the world, not new at all to the world. Even to the corporate strategies is not new. It's not new to the CFO. It's not new to the CEO. And you might wonder what I'm talking about. Let me bring a simple example everyone understand. You take a budget. When you take a budget process, will you do entire budget overnight and trying to get your peers? If I'm the CFO and the board member representing finance, would I do all of that one night and get my approval, my colleagues approved? Or would I do a high-level budget of the top 5 items? Let's say what are operationally important, what are overhead-wise important, and then get the high level. I'm talking about specifically to make it easy, is a P&L. So I'll get a 5-6 lines of the P&L, total maybe 10 lines, and say, hey guys, what do you think about this model? This is my thinking for the year, and I think we need to bring this investment for XYZ reasons. Then once that is established, when people are tweaking that numbers, then the finance member or the board member will then go into detailing it out what that one line means to several lines with several notes. And that can now go into 10 to 20 page document on the entire budget. Now that doesn't even happen next day night. That goes on cycles. Not only that, now think of the framework of that budget. Usually if we establish $200 million for this year, pretty much every round, now we bring the sprint concept. Every sprint you come out, there is a build. That build is a daily build or every 2-day build. That is the improved budget. And within that budget, usually that 200 million mark is met, which means original customer agreement, what we promised to deliver is met. It could be 210, it could be 190, doesn't matter, plus or minus, but it's not 500 now. So the board member continues in iterations and then releases, say for example, let's say overall budget, then goes to the segmental budget or regional budgets. Likewise, they go to releases. So what is this? To me, it's iterative product building, iterative service. Now, this is one way you can break the minds of the leaders that you are not doing anything new. The reason is that humans are one thing for sure. Humans are very, very, very reluctant to change. Anything that humans are not happy of changing, because all changes involve unlearn, learn, and relearn. These 3 activities. Unlearning is the most difficult for humans. So that is why we have to transform the organization and the corporate leadership in a way they have done that better before. So bring examples to compare and say, look, this is nothing new. This is something you will do every day. So that is the first thing I want to establish. Then going into the doing it actually, this evangelist I spoke about, the leader that who drive that in the board or whoever that we champion, appoint as a champion, should also bring these practices to the board level, to the corporate leadership. Now, I have brought in the history, excuse me, to my senior team, exec team, without them knowing that I'm bringing agile methodologies into their mind. I don't have to call here. You know why? Today we are going to do our corporate planning session or whatever, or daily meeting and all of that using Agile. I don't have to call it out. I do a technique and they realize what is it all about, because they may not have exposed to that because they come with different backgrounds. I appreciate some of them are global sales leaders. They don't understand. So I'll bring an example if it's the right time, Rohan. One of the methodologies I have used is that there was a company I worked for. We had to transform. It's from sales pipeline point of view, and from stability point of view, and better predictability point of view. So stability, predictability, and sales pipeline point of view, I had to transform the organization within 12 months because investors have promised something has not been delivered. I won't call out any example names because it's not fair by the company. That was a goal set by me for the investor. Is like, Anura, we want you to be the, whatever that title, I don't call the title also so that you don't figure out what the company is. So here's your title, you need to transform this. Sometimes I wear, most of the time in my life, I have worn the hat, which I'm thinking of, change agent hat, right? So I take it, okay, fine, I'll do that. So what I did was, I decided within this 12 months period, I must have a daily meeting. I said, look, I need to meet all of you physically, unless there is a barrier, physically, in front of my room. I bought a large board of 5.5 by or 5 by 3, actually a sticker, stick on the wall. Most of the foreigners who are here understand you get a paint that you can paint on the wall. So I didn't have the paint, but I had the sticker on the wall. And I broken down into, now I'm going slowly into things. I've broken down into vertical groups, had horizontal swim lanes. Now you know what I'm talking about, right? I'm sure you guys, you know very well what I'm talking about. Then I had work types and the cards. So I don't have to have the cards. So they are not, some of them have not even, you can use Jira or whatever. I don't want to force them to use. What I said was, you know what? I have 6 corporate leaders under me, head of sales or global sales. Sorry. I have the global engineering likewise. I said, fine, I'll give you different colors now. You always use, I had the luxury of having all those leaders for that year with me in the physically. So that's a luck. Otherwise you could use it now this way, you can use it virtually. But that time I had the luxury of having all my heads in my office. So I said, look, here is a color. Use this 3M, this, what do you call it? Stick on, right? What do you call it? Stick.
Four sticks.
4 sticks. I said, here is blue is yours. Green is yours. Yellow is yours. Pink is yours. I gave 6 leaders different colors. What they do is they write that, what the task, and then move that vertical lanes. Over a period, I asked them, do you understand you have been using a Kanban board? Did you understand we had doing this daily stand-ups every day? I mean, daily stand-ups every day is a double kind of thing, but daily stand-ups. And then, so that has really worked well. And then I see sometimes even me not in office, they run it. And also I did rotation of the leadership who run the stand-up to make sure everyone get that methodology into their mind. So again, a technology of how Scrum Master, I'm not saying exactly matching, but I'm trying this. These are the things, Rohan, to your question. Just first, what I said was establish this is nothing new. That was my first point about budget. Second thing, bring them sometimes without them knowing, and you don't have to force people. You have to do agile, you have to do agile product owner, you have to do this training. If that you're not going to be a board member, you can't do that. They bring a lot of skills. Say, look, there are simple practices. And then you tell, look, this is one methodology. This is not the agile, but this is one of the methodologies. Now go to the flow and just start. Then you know what? Some of those corporate leaders, which I saw that day, wow, that's the Kanban, right? Yeah, we have a Kanban. We see that teams also sometimes using that kind of, they start appreciating. So that is where I think the second technique I said is comparing and telling them what they are doing is not only enough. You'll have to make them practice. And that practice give you not just the happiness of, because you as a corporate leader, your duty is not to bring agile practices to the boardroom and say, you know what, so many agile practices, we are a successful company. It's that you make use the best out of that to get the productivity. I stop.
Okay, thanks, Anurag. So that was really awesome. The example that you took of a Kanban board. So that's really awesome because So everybody, the person who is not ready to change, so it'll automatically get converted him to the new environment to using Kanban without even him knowing it. So that's really awesome technique. Thank you very much, Anura. So this question or this subtopic is very much relevant to what we have been talking previously as well. So this talks about the roles, especially the redefinition of roles in terms of recognition. So any transition of agile requires redefinition of roles and where the project is executed, and the traditional roles need to be evolved over time, over the agile transformation. And uh, sometimes we have to make these roles multifunctional rather than specialized. So this impacts from top to bottom, from board to senior leadership to the lowest level. So what do you think as the best strategy from board's perspective to handle this, and what techniques do you propose to use, and what is your experience on this, Anurag?
Yeah, I think I go back to thanks for that question. It is actually the, I would say, Rohan, most complicated question you asked about among all so far. Because I was thinking in my mind what could be the answer. But I think if you look at how I connected the chain of points that I bought, if you connect them one by one in the chain, I said first, the leader, there must be a leader pushing down the changes in any transformation to be successful. That's number one. Number two, I said, agile is not new, or the agile methodology is not agile, but agile, some of the principles and the foundation methodologies are not new. Number three, I said you need to unlearn and learn. Now, I think that challenge is what you're bringing right now, because evolving means that lot of unlearning, lot of unlearning. I probably bring a quick example of unlearning, how difficult for human to unlearn. To establish that, I'll bring a point shortly. But then after unlearning and learning, it's how do we continuously improve. And again, there's nothing new to us, because we have been in the world of digital for so long. So continuous delivery, continuous improvement is nothing new to us. But the reason I'm speaking these in, even in the board level, I practice that. That's why I'm remembering, even though I have not done any project delivery and being a scrum master for ages, I still practice and remember them. Now, the fourth point I brought was again, how do we evolve? Now, I want to bring the point before I go to, because I spoke about the importance, I spoke about how you train people and entertain within the boardroom. Then I spoke about unlearning. Now I'm talking about evolving. So before we go to evolve, let's understand the challenge of unlearning. Any agile practitioner needs to understand when you evolve. I'll take a step back, Rohan, take a step back and establish something. Any transformation leader, clearly not only the trainers, that is another big mistakes enterprises are doing. Trainer or a transformer is one character or one champion. You also need a change management person, which is in a large corporates, at least. Even a small organization, scale up organization, still you can understand wearing multiple hats. You can have the same agile hat. You can change one project manager hat. Also, you can adjust a change manager hat, because change management is the key for a success. Now, I've been writing an article that very well connected 2 weeks ago on Financial Times, which actually went 3,000 hits within 1 week. The reason is because I talked about transformation misunderstandings. I said people who transform only consider what process and technology, they pay less attention to people. Any transformation success is people. I say it, I put my foot down and argue on it. It's not the technology of the process, because you can change all of that, but not the people very easily. So that very well connected to again topic of unlearning and learning. Now, let me tell you how difficult unlearning in 30 seconds. 20 or 15 to 20 years ago, when I migrated, I failed driving license practical test, not the race one or the computer aided one, but the practical one. 2 times, and I think the third time, I can't remember. The next time I'll have to go back after driving vehicles for about 15 years, 10 to 15 years in multiple countries, including Fiji, Sri Lanka, different other countries. I had to now go back to a learner license for a year and a probation for another year to get the full license if I fail this time. Now, this is after failing multiple times, by the way. I was almost in tears because my focus is not successful in my job. Every day my thinking is, how would I get my license today? And my wife is pregnant. She can't go to the hospital or the clinic or doctor, anything without, because she doesn't drive, or she drive, but I didn't want her to drive that time. Now, then I realized one day morning the problem of unlearning. All these driving practices I had in Sri Lanka or this region, they are great, but I'm continuing to use them in that part of the world also. I don't respect the, cutting the lines when someone on the pedestrian crossing, I'm ready to go, all of that. So that fails me number of times. Then I realize, look, I think the most difficult thing I need to do is unlearn, which I got my license next time. So coming back to this connected, that tells you how difficult. You never realize. You said, unlearning, I can do it. No, unlearning is the most difficult thing. So how does this evolve happen within the minds of the people of taking from today, whatever the practice they have today, to the agile is evolution that you call in your word. I think that evolution has to carry heavy load of unlearning. Now, that to be successful, you need to have that, like I said, 3 main key people in an organization. Now, you must ask, Rohan, can this be possible in a startup? My answer is no. And startup doesn't require this because the mindset of startup is anyway agile.
You spoke my mind actually. I was about to ask, how do we apply this into startup, scale
Yeah,
up, and enterprise? Yes.
exactly. So startup mindset is agile. And usually I call this applying too much agile is fragile, that also. So startup mindset is agile. So you have that already, that ingredient in the recipe in-house. When you slowly moving into scale up to the enterprise level is where you bring a lot of external leaders. And some of them coming, I have been meeting people in the past has no appreciation of agile because they come from a different world. I work for X logo. I don't want to call the logo name. We have been in 200, 300 workforce in the global, right? We are not practicing this kind of thing. So they come in. So scale up stage and the growth stage, you get a lot of other people coming and you have to appreciate. So you need, in agile startup world, you may not require at all, which I've seen. I'm on the other hand working with at least close to maybe 300 startups last year, calendar year again, because I've been in different spiralations and different judging and different mentoring and boards and different funding boards, etc. So I meet them. So I can see they have their minds, and the board members are pretty much founders and 1 or 2 investor, or 1 investor mostly, and they also comes with this mindset. But when you go to the other side, you need 3 people to identify. Number 1, who is the transformation main guy who changed, who evolved this? We have to have someone understood and identified. 2, as I said, very importantly, who is the change champion in our board or corporate leadership? And it has to be a corporate level. You have to speak out. And ideally, I have been in a CEO. If I need to make a change, I normally take that change ownership. Because when I speak about in my town halls, when I even hint, they think is okay, this guy is not going to give up. I mean, sometimes you need to have that, so that flavor they need to understand. You're not going to give up as a leader. It's not some marketing you do to get a customer or put a website saying, look, we are an agile company to attract customers. You have to truly do it. So the second part is that evangelist, that leader. Number 3, you don't need a full-time role for this. None of them. So you can wear your hat, like you said, the different hats. So another person is that someone who keeps the track of change management. Because unlearning and learning is so difficult, and that involves not process, not technology. How many times you train your laptop to learn something? You pretty much install it, and AI, if there's AI, adaptive learning, the laptop will start learning it because it doesn't have to learn, software start learning it, right? But how much times you have to start changing a process? You don't learn you don't train a process, you change the process. because they are not people. But humans are the ones that you need to train, educate, and change, evolve. So that is where you need to pay attention in getting the change managed. So my thinking is that, Rohan, to your question, to be successful in any evolution or evolving things, even in Agile, you need to have change management in place. What is change management? Let me explain that. You set the goals, what you need to do, and we understand the people who do okay, let me bring you example what you said about changing hats, different hats. Now sometimes in the I know that there are certain roles that does not cross, like product owner, they have been organization, the product owner and the project manager same, and I put my foot down and said no way this can happen, because you influence too much the team and you scare the team. And even the large enterprises, which I can't call billion net worth organization, I've seen this happen sometime, because that's a misunderstanding of Agile, and that is not going to help the team, because they are going to be tremendous pressure. So there are things you need to break and say from the beginning, don't do that. I firmly believe it's not there. I don't know your thoughts, but I firmly believe that those two roles cross, it becomes a big problem. But there are circumstances that when you make that change happen, when you bring a new team that has not practiced, they sometimes I find that the testers saying testers and the developers saying developers, and I sometimes say, look, I think this you have to change your hat. Sometimes a developer being a tester. So example, way back to 2002, I created something. That time there's no agile practice widely spoken, but there was something called buddy programming at that time, very popular. And I was a rational practitioner and a rational consultant for the region. So I said, look, UML, particularly UML and all. So I said, look, let's try people taking hats and wearing different hats. So I actually did iterative. Each iteration, we nominate the tester within the team, and the people make the call. Who's going to be the tester this time? Because it's a volunteer, right? You have to volunteer, and people take which storyboards you pick up within their picks, within the iteration, within the release. You have to have that freedom. It's not that always I take the low one, you take the high one, but at also based on how I define that is, Rohan, very simple. If that iteration, let's say, is you're building a ERP or whatever, if that iteration involves delivering user stories of, let's say, manufacturing related, I would ask my team as a Scrum Master, who would have the best knowledge to deliver this today? Those can pick up the user stories. And if you have 8-member team or 6-member team or 7-member team, those who believe that you have less knowledge on these user stories, can you become the tester for us? Or maybe opposite way, whichever the way. So I think that practice you'll have to have within the team, and that trickle down to members of the team. And when you do that, people are going to uncomfortable zones, because going out of your comfort zone is very difficult thing for. That's why the learning and unlearning also difficult, because it's going beyond your comfort zone. Learning new thing is going beyond your comfort zone. So what you need to do is that when you do that transformation, changing, evolving, you need to set the goal. So I usually do, Rohan, not only a change manager, but also to tell change manager what is the goal for each and every agile team that we need to achieve. Next 3 months, not only you deliver user stories and the releases, but also this change need to happen in the team. That is relevant to the people. And that has to go through education, which is that sometimes you have to do, like, for example, a simple technique I'll tell you the people is that you can have screensavers bringing every 1 hour different practice, because it's you are talking to your unconscious mind, not unconscious, sorry, subconscious mind. You sit down in the Rohan, you have to understand this. You need to believe what I say. Please take some notes down. Please do it. Versus, I just log in and talk to someone and try to log in. It comes and said, Agile gives you this, or sometimes like you don't have to call Agile itself because people are annoyed. You can say something else, right? So that message go to your subconscious and you start thinking about it. So simple things like that, the change management plan could have education and also communication plan. So, and then you can look at that team-wise set goals, whether that can be done. And Scrum Master is the best person, agent to the team, who can coordinate the change manager and communicate. I I have worked with some organization, large sizes, telcos, where we had a dedicated change manager, dedicated change director. And remember one last thing, when you have people like transformation leaders and change managers, do not, this is another failure of the corporate I have seen, do not say change manager. Get the right skill and call him a change vice president, change management. You know what I go back to my original point. It has to come from top to down. The person should have authority to make the change.
Exactly.
And one last thing, I really, really appreciate what do you call it, uh, the consensus, but you can't get consensus all the time. Sometimes you'll have to have that leadership coming from top to down, because of course we are socialist republic of Sri Lanka, but there's not always, there's organizational decisions that are made best for the company. So you need to have that title. It's just not that you're taking a junior graduate and call it vice president change management. Don't get me wrong. What I'm trying to say is bring the right skill and make sure the board understands, because that is why again that the change champion in the board is important. You realize this is a very important role. Let's have the budget allocated to bring the right caliber of the people into the organization who can change manage this and title them right way. I stop.
Thank you very much, Anurag. So it's very inspiring. So I'll with the by looking at the time left, we have 9 minutes more. So I'll quickly go to the other question, because I definitely know that you would really like to talk about this topic. This is real. This is a real issue, or the problem in the industry when you go for a agile transformation. So sometimes we lacking the proper planning, knowledge, and proper support also to scale the agile transformation. So a real challenge for enterprises implementing agile practices, how to scale the transformation properly. Sometimes we have a problem on it. So finally, what happens is, due to lack of planning and the repercussions from all that, what happens is finally we are trying to rushing the process uh, to end up the complete the transformation, and end up with mostly nothing or very complicated agile system. So in this front, by looking at the boards we've Anura, so what do you think as the best approach to in planning and planning perspective?
Yeah, so that's again another little complicated question, but let me also tell my observations, Rohan. Some of the organization, just a simple thing, right? Stand-ups are taken in sitting down. So I mean, what is the meaning of a stand-up from some other agile? Because I normally go across, all of a sudden, I normally go to across my, I had managed once at one point over 40 product teams.
Okay.
Right. So I've been just going across them, not every day, but all of a sudden I just go across because I normally have a habit and I'm fortunate to remember people's name, even 1,000 people's name. I sometimes remember 200-300 people easily. So I just go and see what they're doing and just trying to be, sometimes observer, being observer, not talking, because you have this chicken and the pig situation again. So you can't be unnecessarily talking and voicing and scaring people. So, but you cross and you sometimes watch and take note of something and a smile and ask after the end of that, what's the meaning of this stand up? Because you have been sit down 2 hours now. So daily sit down rather than stand up. So just to make sure that some of our agile practitioners themselves bring the challenge to ourselves. That's my point. Right? It's like I have been to so many accountants and I have asked a question. This is another example, not about agile. Again, bringing the life examples. Mate, how many of you do you have your finance and the budget plan? No, I don't do that, but I tell my customers to do it. And many organizations like auditing companies, they don't have a finance system installed. Just a highlight. So you have to be, when you do a change, you have to be example to others. That's my point. You have to be a true example to other people, because people will follow you as a leader. And that's what I mentioned. But Second thing, Rohan, is that I saw another question also coming similar to your one on the chat, that how do you make sure people are convinced? The second point I'm trying to bring is that when you really look at the other thing is, most of the agile practitioners I have come across this one, they one thing you need to establish in mind is that the benefits of agile. The benefits of agile comes not by calling yourself an agile practitioner, but also delivering the benefit to the organization and the board. Now, let's imagine the situation. Board and the change champion in the board and all talk about it, top down, trickling down to top to bottom. All that happen nicely. But what if when the organization is transforming, that doesn't come out? So when you look at, uh, I'll give you a typical example how board looks at when they understand. And I've been in this situation. How many user story points you delivered this month? And these are very tricky question, because agile practitioner fights do not compare user story points between the teams. I agree with that, because user story points, depending on the t-shirt sizing, I'm going a little bit 5,000 feet all of a sudden, to make sure that you understand my philosophy. Otherwise, people will talk, this guy is only talking, he doesn't understand. But I'll tell you example. When I go to t-shirt sizing, I understand the user story points based on that are too different from team A to team B, because that totally depends on maturity of the team. Am I right so far, Rohan?
Yes, exactly right.
Then you cannot compare the user story points delivered this and that, because your story points 200 and my 100 would have delivered the same thing, right? So I totally get it. But let me now tell you, the maturity is a team thing. The evolving is a team thing within the team. Then you should be able to compare within the team itself. What I meant was that you can't compare team A and team B, but you should be able to compare team A with team A. Because for the simple fact of maturity. Because evolving means learning and changing. And how do you know change has happened? Is team is improving productivity. So that is where I think the agile practitioners, like, now I can't call it myself, but you and some of the agile practitioners need to really understand, what do I sell the board? The reason I'm saying that is it's a promise, bilateral promise. I sit in the board, make sure my board and the corporate leaders understand, I push it down. You run the day-to-day work, building releases. You make sure you provide me that productivity upward. The promise is bilateral. So that's the reason I'm saying, like, to be successful, to be evolved and understood and delivered, it has to be delivered in that fashion. I deliver the message and make sure my board understand and appreciate it. You make sure that the productivity improvements come over the time. That's the only way a board understand very simply why time has spent, why did we all, because the most of the time my experience is that they're saying, look, that it will take whatever that took, how it ends up in a board level is, how come this happened? This team has been delivering these kind of things last 2 years, 3 years. Every 30 days we had seen something. Bloody hell, this started. Now 6 weeks we had to wait for a release. Why is this happen? Because they brought Agile, and they tend to tell me that Agile cuts down all unnecessary things. How come this happen? So that is where you can't just go. The reason I'm saying is that you go to the comfort zone where you say that anything can be elaborated. Don't worry about it. You can deliver. You can put it to the, what do you call it, park it on the tech debt. Or they are NRF, non-FR, sorry, non-functional requirement. Don't worry about it. So you park too much, too much, too much, and then you get worst out of the agile, not the best. So I think this is a two-way transformation and a two-way learning. And people need to understand that the promise that you deliver, the promise that you give has to be delivered. Then only that we take it down and making sure that's successful, and team takes it upward. I think we are 1 minute behind, 1 minute to go to the timeline set. So I stop.
Okay. It's awesome to see that the board level member goes down to t-shirt sizing and story sizing level to talk about it. That's really awesome, because this is something we don't see in our organization. So since time is up, so we have come to an end of the discussion today. So there are so many other things that I know that we need to discuss, and audience is even I'm very sure that you're having lots of questions. So post all your questions to us. What we can do is we will ensure that all the questions you have will be answered properly, especially with the examples like Anura rightly has taken into the discussion today. So we will post that in our LinkedIn page of Agility TuneUp. Uh, so uh, there are so many takeaways from my end. Anura, you want to say something?
That's one thing. I think this topic is relevant for two reasons, Rohan. It's because one is the agile concept. The other one is the current pandemic. The agile is the every leader should be agile now, that's something that I think it's very relevant. Sorry.
All right. Yes, that's true. Um, uh, So what my takeaways from this session is actually the change management topic that we spoke about, which is very important. What I like from Anura's discussion was this change management role has to come from the top. That is something I even really like to see, because this change manager of the company, which is the greatest influence to the agile transformation, should have lots of authorities from the board level. So what I believe is, if we can take this topic as a separate discussion to another webinar, uh, I would like to take that up. So let me discuss with Janani and the other officials to see whether we can arrange another discussion. So I'm very sure that audience will also uh, like it, because this is another inspirational, topic to talk, that we need to take Anura's inspirational thoughts on this. So, so I would like to thank, just to end up the session, I would like to thank Anura De Alwis, who's a great visionary leader in the industry, being lots of as a board members, uh, and giving us lots of inspirational thoughts relevant to the topic today, and we learn a lot. Thank you very much, Anura. Uh, and also, I would like to thank Agile 20 Reflect for giving us such a good opportunity to talk about these good topics today. And obviously, I would like to thank Agility TuneUp and Janani Lienage, who's the founder of Agility TuneUp, as well as the ambassador for Sri Lanka for Agile 20 Reflect, uh, to host this session. And also Kitmini Alvis. There's just a lot to do from the back end. Thank you, Kitmini, for uh, helping us by doing all this difficult work from the back end. And finally, I would like to thank the audience for your time, and hope you have learned a lot during this session. So before we end up, Anura, do you have any few words to audience just to end the session?
I think depending, I mean, given the team that you have 4 minutes over, I think you have other events to come. So I'll take in one or 30, 40 seconds. I think thank you so much for inviting. And I really hope this was a qualitative discussion there, a quantitative, like that's the reason I asked in the beginning, what kind of audience, etc. So I hope that everyone did not waste your Sunday listening to me. And I hope that you had some good outcome from this. And I wish all the best to you and stay safe. Last thing is that do not ever undermine the two things I said. That is basically the leader's role in agile transformation is need to be understood, and board champion is number one. Number two is that change management, that you said, number three, actually three, is that do not ever think that Agile doesn't give promises. It gives promises. It doesn't give promises mean that the board, you lose the trust of the board. The only way you can confidence is that productivity and continuous learning. That's a promise you need to give. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anura. So thank you, audience, for your valuable questions. I will ensure that those will be answered properly. And so until we meet up in another such a good webinar, I would like to say goodbye and have a good rest of the day. So until we meet next time, Rohan M, over and out.
Thank you. Bye.